Okay, so we are back with another edition of our Heart Driven Hustle. I am just stoked for my guest, but before I get too far into that, again, if you've been following along, and I know many of you have, the time that you guys take to leave me likes, loves, comments, subscribes, this is a really big deal. I think if I'd really understood the power of making sure that people know that what we're putting out there in terms of content has such an impact is huge. So I want to give a big kudos out to our Divas That Care Network. They are the network that hosts us, lets us come out here and do this. So thank you to Candace Gish for setting that up. If you are looking for a tribe and a community of women who want to be empowered, we are changing that way we look at the word diva. So like, follow, comment, share, subscribe, leave us some love, share if you love what you got value out of here today. My guest today, I have a little bit of a fangirl moment going on, not even gonna lie. So pretty excited. I have the amazing Sarah Zolecki with me online today. Thank you, Sarah, for making time to connect with me.
Oh
Um,
my gosh, thank you for having me.
no, I'm serious. So I had the incredible pleasure of meeting you. Oh my goodness, like 90 days ago, maybe. I feel like my life has been on speed since, everything that's been going on. We throw a little COVID in there, we throw a little isolation. But it's been a pretty incredible journey. I have appreciated your kindness, your care, your respect. Oh my gosh, like I am just so blessed by you. So it's a real pleasure for me to be on here. So this podcast really is going to be for the woman who is like on plan, on purpose. She's also a mama, but she's like hella committed to her goals.
Yeah.
So Sarah, I'd love it if you would share your story, your bio. I always ask people to fill out the questionnaire, but I never look, to be honest. It's more for the network so they can put what they need to up there. Of course, we will have all of Sarah's information in the comment box below. So if you love what she says, you want to be a part of what she's doing, you've got to reach out because the woman is on fire. But Sarah, let's talk about you.
Oh my gosh. Well, I was so excited to do a podcast because let's face it, for those of us that are moms, it's like I need a 20-minute break. So this is awesome.
Yeah.
I was like, sure, I'll be part of it. This is great. But I'm married. I've been married 15 years. I make my home in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I have two little kids. I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, one of each girl and a boy. And I love being a mom. I will tell you though, I also love being an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
I am one of those girls that, being a mom is first and foremost for me, but I also feel that being an entrepreneur also kind of fills a hole that even being the greatest mom just doesn't fill. And so I like to I also, when I decided to become an entrepreneur, I wanted to also be able to bring something to the table as well in my family,
Hmm.
and have something that I could really be proud of. And I could have something that I could feel like I was accomplishing, right? I don't feel like I accomplished. I feel like I'm still in the process.
Hmm.
And, I think that for me is just, is so important. And I think for a lot of women too, it's it's a big hole, because I do meet, a lot of women that they love being a mom, but at the same time they still feel like there's that missing piece. And I'm like, man, you just got to find something you're passionate about, and you just got to like chase it down. And I don't really care what it is, like just find something, right, that you can be passionate about, because that, that will help you, big
Hmm.
time. Otherwise, I feel like sometimes moms are just kind of walking around like empty shells, and that breaks my heart, to see that.
Well, and someone said to me this past week, actually, that they're like, you got to make sure. And she said, I know you're starting to see it because, my tiny human is, she's going to be in kindergarten and then eventually we'll find a new normal, right? And she said, you're coming to a part of your life again where you get to, it's kind of you and you again. And I was like, oh, that's right. So I'm glad that I never, I was sort of that mom. I was passionately driving toward my goals when I got pregnant, throughout my pregnancy. Went back to work very quickly because I do work from home. So I was able to, juggle that. And I remember thinking to myself that I thought I would feel different the day after I had her. And I remember thinking, no, I still want it. In fact, I think I want it more now because now there's like this little human and I want to show her what's possible and, help her shatter the
Yeah.
ceilings. And, I think a lot of people were like that. And one woman said to me, now maybe you understand, now that you have this tiny person in your life, why I didn't want to, be an entrepreneur. And I said, actually, I'm feeling the opposite. And I respect you for feeling, that you just want to be at home and nestle with her. But I said, I actually feel inspired and brave. Like I feel braver now that I'm a mom. Right. And, so that's been pretty exciting. I know that, not only are you chasing, dreams and goals, and kudos to being, married, and, that's a big deal too, right? Interpersonal relationships are challenging, at the best of
Oh yeah,
times.
that's a whole nother.
that's a whole other episode. We'll come back. But, I know that you've been getting out there and leading the way for other women. You've got, one of the most powerful women. You've walked on a stage that is, like I said, fangirl moment. Talk to me about that. How long has that little, I want to do something more energy sort of been there in your life?
About 22 years. Long time, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that people don't realize is like, I think it's like you just have to go after it until,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And know that you are going to go through ebbs and flows, and you are going to have to learn how to be flexible and adaptable, as you hear my kids screaming in the background.
You were one of the ones that posted that image of, my kids when I'm not on the phone, sleeping lambs. My kids who are when I'm on the phone, and this is pandemonium.
I know.
I was
Exactly.
like, yeah.
I'm just like, oh my gosh, please, this is happening already. But no, it's definitely been a process. But I think it's just every single day I've just always been focusing on like, hey, am I better today than I was yesterday? And learning how to just kind of take, one foot in front of the other. And that, I think for some people that definitely is challenging. I mean, that was for me, because I think most people, when you start a business, you want it to be so much go faster than it really does. Right. And so because of that, mentally, it takes a lot of like, gosh, personal growth, and emotional maturity, right, and intelligence to kind of really work through that and be patient, and just be okay with being on that path, right? That continuous path of getting better each day,
Yeah.
That type of thing. So for me, it was a long time. I mean, sure, I speak on stages, sure, I do all that, but I mean, that was like 20 years in the making.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's important too, because I no matter what, type of business that you're in as an entrepreneur, I mean, I think it's really important to always be continuously asking yourself, like, how am I, working on mastering my craft, right? And, not just treating it like a hobby. And that's okay. Like if you treat it like a hobby, that's okay. But you have to realize you're going to get hobby results then, right? So I think you have to be able to, understand, what's going to come out of it, the results based on the effort that you are putting into it, right? So for me, I'm just always been on that continuous path of, working on my craft every day, because I just know that's the only way that I'm going to get better.
I like that too, because what was coming out for me as you were sharing that is, I think as women, I think as people, but definitely as women, we have that comparison game kicks in.
Easy.
And so it's so easy for people to look and say, oh my God, and then like you said, no, this is like 20 plus years in the making. And I was thinking about that too, recently, that I was like, it took me 2.5 years to hit a significant space, partway through my career. And I was like, it felt like a long time when I was in it, but I look back and go, it's only 2.5 years. Like, it really wasn't, but it was that, like you said, that commitment to always be growing, and what have I done today to move myself forward. And I think right now, a lot of people are looking at becoming an entrepreneur. We have time to, we're starting things we always wanted to. And I think the one woman said, she's like, I'm trying to find a new normal for me, knowing that it's never going to be normal, but I have an opportunity to use this time to change things. And so what am I going to do with that, moving forward? Right? Like there's so many different good things that come out of a best laid plans that never actually come true. Right? Like it's a little bit crazy. So
Well, and I think I think for a lot of people, it's important to look at, I think every single one of us, our lives have slowed down, right?
Mhm.
Which is a blessing, actually. We all need to look at it as a blessing, because what it allows you to do is to take a breath and go, okay, so what are the things that I'm really passionate about? What are the things that when someone asks me a question about, I can't stop talking about it, right? Like maybe that needs to be part of the what you need to move into, right? Maybe you've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but you're like, I don't really know where to go or where to start or what have you, where now this time allows you to slow down, where you do take that time and you go, man, what do I love? And go pursue that, right? But I think a lot of times when our lives are sped up so fast, we don't even take that time to just be,
Mhm.
right? Like there's nothing wrong with just being. And I
Yeah.
think for a lot of people, we forget that. We always feel like we have to be, becoming this, becoming that, versus just being, which is sometimes just being silent and listening in the silence. And um, man, that has served me so well. Just even during this time, just being a better mom and being a better spouse, right? And doing a better job with self-care for me, where, most women, we are horrible at it. And if you say you're good at it, I almost want to say you're lying because we take care of everybody else, and we're last, right?
Yeah.
Where here I really learned how to, man, slow it down and look at and really assess, how have I been doing taking care of me?
Yeah.
And I know for myself, I can answer that. I've been doing a pretty poor job. I'm pretty poor. And so I've been able to sit down and re-strategize. Okay, so what are the things that are really important to me? You know what I mean? And sit down and list them all out and go, okay, so how can I make sure that I follow through with filling my cup every day? So
Mhm.
that, man, I've got so much more that I can give out to my business, my spouse, my friends, my family, my kids, right? And it's allowed me to this time has allowed me to really get organized and restructure, you know, the things in my life that need to be important and be a priority every day.
Yeah. I love that because a friend of mine said, it's a great time to do a values exercise, which I've always been fairly value driven. And I said, well, I know what my two values are. She's like, I'm going to challenge you. She's like, there's been a lot of change. It's a new decade, right? She's like, just dive into that. And that's been a pretty powerful thing. And one of the things that came out for me, Sarah, was I've worked as an entrepreneur since I was 24. Like we're talking a long time.
Yeah,
And
me too.
I was like, I've always had the time to connect with people, to make time to do a Zoom coffee or whatever it is. Like I've actually always had that ability. Nothing really changed except maybe how I was approaching people, or people were more available in different hours. I wasn't working, the same. So there were some shifts for sure. But I remember feeling like, I could have always done this, but how come I had bought into that hamster wheel? Like that's why I got out, so I could do my own thing, so I could have that. So it's been kind of an interesting piece to be like, okay, so this new habit of making time to just call people to say, hey, I'm just calling to check in, how's life today? I
Hmm.
want to make sure I do that when all of this is over. Like, so like you said, it's been kind of a, okay, this was good
Yeah,
on some level.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, obviously, there's a lot happening out there that's sad,
Hmm.
but there's also a lot of good happening too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I know that, for a lot of our listeners that listen in on this, a lot of them are entrepreneurs. A lot of them are, I think, like you and I, really dialing down and getting very clear on, what will remain and what won't, that sort of thing. So I always like to open it up to, my guests to say, is there something that you've been thinking about that you'd love to share? Because now would certainly be a really good time for you to sort of just speak to that.
Um, Kind of what I already talked about. I know that for sure. Just about the slowing down piece. I think it's learning how to find the good in all of this, right? So if you
Mhm.
haven't yet, take that time to figure out, like, so what is all the good in this? It's kind of like when I go through different situations in my life, instead of looking at why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Right. Versus, okay, so what am I supposed to learn right
Mm-hmm.
now from this? Right. Like, what can I learn right now from this that can make me a better person or enhance my business or make me a better spouse or a better mom? Right. Like, what am I supposed to be learning? Right. That I am not seeing right now. And I think, always having that perspective, especially when things don't go our way or things seem to be dark or seem to be, negative, instead of going down that rabbit hole, which, the reality is it's easy for all of us to do that. I tell people it's easy to be negative. It's easy to go down that rabbit hole. It's easy to go into self-pity. It's easy to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
What's not easy is the other spectrum, right? And so I just encourage people to do that. And that's what I continuously do. So even through all this stuff that's been happening over the last month, every day I'm still telling myself, like every day I feel like I'm learning something, like just one little thing that can, tweak my business, or one little thing that's helping me do a better job of parenting, or, whatever it may be. I just encourage people to do that, because there is a lot that we can all learn that can just make us so much better through all this.
I agree. I agree. Well, Sarah, I really appreciate that you took some time out today to just touch base and to chat, because this was a good reminder. Typically Tuesdays are the day that I do my recordings for this, and so then I create some space afterwards, because I am an introvert, so putting energy out makes me tired later on.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate that you took some time out to hold some space and share some of your unique perspective. And so, for anybody who's wanting to get in touch with you, we're going to have all of the information for them to contact you down below.
Awesome.
And I look forward to catching you on one of our many training calls and live videos coming up. So
Yes. Oh my
again,
gosh. Thank you so much for all that you do. Look at all the goodness that you're pouring out into everybody. It's pretty awesome.
thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. So I'm going to wrap this up here and let everybody get back to what we're doing. We like to keep these short and sweet, but thank you again, Sarah, for the reminder to slow down and to figure out what you need to do today to make sure that you are filling your cup first, so
Yeah.
that you can give from the overflow and not be feeling like you're running on empty all the time. Well, thanks everybody, and we'll talk to you very, very soon.